This is a being and becoming midday reset. Take a breath. You've been going all morning. For the next few minutes, let's clear the noise and find your focus again. You read something earlier today. Maybe it was an article someone sent you, or a report you needed to get through before a meeting, or a few pages of a book you've been trying to make progress on. You finished it. You put it down. And then, somewhere between the next email and the next conversation, it started to blur. Not completely. You remember there was something useful in it, a number maybe, a framework, a line that felt important when you read it, but the specifics are already soft around the edges. And if someone asked you right now to summarize the main point, you'd find yourself reaching. This isn't a memory problem. It isn't a focus problem. It's something most people do without realizing it. A habit baked into how we move through information. We read to finish, not to keep. Think about how you approach most of what you read in a workday. The goal, more often than not, is completion. Get through the document, get to the end of the article, mark it done and move on. There's always more waiting. So you read with one part of your mind on the content and another part already planning what comes next, already composing the reply, already calculating whether you have time before your next call. When you read that way, the words pass through. You process them just enough to keep moving. The meaning arrives briefly, and then it goes. Your brain files it loosely, attached to nothing in particular. What's clarifying to understand is that this isn't a failure of intelligence or attention. It's simply what happens when we treat reading as a transaction instead of a conversation. When we ask our minds to receive without giving them anything to hold on to. Retention isn't a fixed trait. It's a practice, and it's a surprisingly light one. You don't need more time. You don't need a highlighting system or a second read-through. You need one small shift in what you do in the minute after you finish reading something. That's what this reset is about. The brain doesn't store information the way a hard drive does. It doesn't save files and retrieve them intact. What it does is rebuild. Every time you remember something, your brain reconstructs it from fragments, from the context it was learned in, from the emotional texture of the moment, from whatever else was connected to it at the time. This means the strongest memories aren't the ones where you passively received information. They're the ones where you did something with it, where you connected it to something you already knew, or wrote it down in your own words, or said it out loud, or explained it to someone else. The act of reconstruction is what makes it stick. Retrieval, it turns out, is also storage. Researchers have found that even a rough, imperfect attempt to recall what you've just read does more for attention than reading the same material twice. The act of reaching for it, even when you only pull up fragments, lays down a stronger path for the next time you need it. The effort is the point. The slight strain of remembering is what deepens the trace. What this looks like in practice is almost embarrassingly simple. When you finish reading something, before you close the tab or set down the document, you pause. 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and you ask yourself one question. What was the thing that mattered most in that? Not a summary, not a full recall, just the one thing. The idea you'd bring up if someone asked you about it at dinner. The sentence you'd share with a colleague if you wanted them to read it too. The piece that shifted something, even slightly, in how you see the problem you're working on. When you surface that one thing, two things happen. First, your brain encodes it more deeply because you've now retrieved it at least once, and that first retrieval matters more than almost anything else you could do. Second, you give that piece of information an anchor, something to attach to in your existing knowledge, so it doesn't float free and dissolve. There's a second part to this, optional but worth trying. After you've named the one thing, consider where it connects. Maybe it confirms something you already believed, or complicates something you thought you understood, or gives you a new angle on a problem you're sitting with right now. You don't need a clean answer, just reaching towards the connection is enough to start building it. This is how people who seem to absorb everything they read actually work. It's not faster reading or sharper concentration. It's the pause, the small deliberate moment of turning the content back toward yourself before the current of the day carries you forward. Most of what you read will not stay with you. That's fine. Not everything should. But the things that matter, the things you went looking for, the things that were actually worth your attention, those deserve 30 seconds before you move on. The return is disproportionate to the cost. You already know how to do this. You've already done this. There's something you read that stayed with you for days or weeks. Chances are you did something with it. You told someone about it. You argued with it in your head. You connected it to something you were already working through. You didn't just receive it, you responded to it. That's the whole practice, made deliberate, made consistent. One question asked at the end: what was the one thing that mattered? You don't need to write it down, though you can. You don't need to build a system around it. You just need the pause, the moment of turning back to face what you just read before you move on. Over time, this compounds quietly. You start to arrive at conversations with more to say. You connect ideas across things you read weeks apart. Your thinking has a little more texture, a little more ground under it. A mind that's settled and oriented, ready for the afternoon, rooted in what it actually knows. The rest of your day is still ahead. There may be more reading in it. When you finish something, take 30 seconds. Ask the question. Let the answer settle. Then move on, clear. That's your reset. Go read something, and this time keep it. And if you need another minute before you do, the music is here. Let it finish. There's no rush.